Hello, avocado fans. I got a special delivery and I got budwood for my friend in Southern California at ReEngineered Moments. Definitely check out his YouTube channel. He shows you updates on his trees and his complete journey from buying the tree to the growth pattern to how it performs and what the fruit tastes like. And basically everything you want to know about a variety. If he has it, you're going to see the good, the bad, and the ugly. And you'll be able to see what the fruit is all about. Well, guess what? I sent him some budwood from our local varieties, and while he sent budwood from the varieties he has, and many of these I haven't seen in Northern California. Let's take a look. This is Ester, and this is a Hass type that's ready early, which is excellent for us because our Hass tends to be ready very late, usually into summer. So this could shave off a few months, and get it ready, say in April. Who wouldn't want that? Even 1 month. Everyone wants to get their Hass when the weather's beautiful. This is the Anaheim. Anaheim is one of the parents of Reed. It is believed to be Nabal Anaheim cross that gave us the Reed. So that'll be interesting. I haven't seen that up here. And the fruit are big. And it's a small tree is what I know about that one. This is a Stewart. It is a bee pollinator. It is a Mexicola type, supposed to be an excellent Mexicola type. Everyone from Fresno down to San Diego raves about that. And so that's going to be an interesting one to grow. I think in the colder parts of Northern California, it might not perform as well, but I'm inland, so I'll get to try this one out. And by grafting it to another tree. Over here, we have bacon, which if you watch ReEngineered Moments channel, this is one video was his heaviest performing avocado. So if you want lots of fruit, bacon is a good one to get, and it'll pollinate your others. Stewart is also a bee pollinator, by the way. And this one is, for some reason, I don't see this one that much in Northern California. I know a couple people have it, but hopefully we'll see this one. Dongalogli. What's amazing about Dongalogli is in Southern California, it gets 2 crops a year. And it's a very interesting looking fruit and supposedly an excellent tasting fruit. I have had one and it was good, but I don't think it was in its prime. So what better way to experience fruit in its prime than actually grow it yourself? And we have the SC Gold. SC Gold is ready from January to June. It is more of a Guatemalan or Hass type in flavor. It is probably a hybrid, as most of these are. And this one is really taking the world by storm right now because, in large part, I think because of that window, January to June, your sort of Guatemalan, Hass, nutty, oily types aren't generally available. Well, a man found this one in his yard in Santa Clara, and guess what? It's an excellent avocado, which is what I hear from the reviews. So a lot of people are growing this. And so thank you, ReEngineered Moments, for sending me this budwood so we can introduce these varieties in Northern California and people could grow them, and in years into the future they can share it with each other. One of the great things about ReEngineered Moments channel is that he does updates of his trees, so we get to see how these trees perform and how they do and what it's about. Well, guess what? I want to do the same. I recently renovated my yard. All right, so let me show you my Bay Area avocados here in spring 2024. So you get to join me on my avocado journey because I renovated the yard. I made a lot of changes. And part of it is that I had a lot of avocado trees that have been sitting in pots for years. And rather than rehoming them, I'd say, hey, let's grow these things. I want to see what these things can do. So that's what I've done. I've made lots of changes. I had some citrus dwarves in the back here that I removed to put tall trees in. And I want to show you. It's sort of like me starting my avocado journey back from day one. And you got to join me for the ride, much like REM, who, again, like I said, he shows you everything about the trees. And that's why his videos are so educational. So be sure to check that out, and I'll add a link to one of his videos in the description so you could find his stuff. This here is one of 4 that I call the NorCal collection. What we have here is a bacon avocado tree. And these were very commonly grown for decades in Northern California. They tend to be cold hardy, and they put out a lot of flowers, and the production is very high. The best thing is in the Bay Area, they can basically cover the first half of the year, especially in colder areas like down in Watsonville and Santa Cruz, where they'll hang all the way till May and June. Now where I am is a hot part of the Bay Area. They are ready much earlier, but again, I can have these in February, and then they'll last there. They'll stay there for a few months and basically start my year off with bacon avocados. I'm showing you the flowers because that is what it is famous for. It is famous to as a pollinator for the Hass. But look at all the growth. Look at it. It's just so natural for Northern California. It's just, you put these in the ground if it's healthy and they'll just grow for you. Bacon, I find, is a very upright, tall tree. But I'm going to stop fertilizing at about 15 feet and just let it stay there, because when you fertilize a big tree, it's just going to keep growing for you. So I don't really feel the need to fertilize once it's a good size. In fact, my lamb, I do not fertilize anymore, and it stays the same size and produces well. So that's how I do it. And I only fertilize if I think the tree needs it. Look at this one. This is a Mexicola. Also putting out lots of flowers. And if I look closely, I found some babies on here. Oh, there we go. Right there. I don't know if you can see that. There it is. Looks like a little Tic Tac. I love these fruit. I find that they're almost, it's just a very unique flavor. And I think of them as the 3 types that the Aztecs referred to. They had 3 words. I'm convinced that one was the big green skin buttery types, which we have over here. And then it was the criollos, the ones where you could eat the edible skin, and they tend to be ready at the end of the year in the fall. And the third is sort of your bumpy tasting Guatemalan types with bumpy skin, very nutty and oily. And that's what we have here. I have the 3. And the reason I say that is because the indigenous of Mesoamerica, they were not commercial farmers or growers. You grew fruit and ate fruit and you lived off it. But I don't think that they would necessarily classify the Florida West Indians as a separate type, when they're actually very similar tasting to a lot of the green skin Mexican types. In fact, most of the West Indians are West Indian Mexican cross. So I'm convinced that these are the 3. In fact, this middle one, the Mexicola, also known as Criollo, still has its own word in Spanish in Mexico, and that is the Criollo type of avocado. So I find it's exciting to have the 3 types that I think were referred to by these 3 names by my ancestors, which goes back to the Aztecs in the Valley of Mexico. This one is your Hass. Look at that. It's doing really well. I chose this tree out of a dozen in a big box store, and this was the most vigorous one. Now, for Northern California, they were growing these. I think it looks like I've seen trees in the Bay Area probably since the 80s, often in yards close to houses. and these can do well when they're big, especially. I have some videos, and it's a big Hass tree in Orinda, and there's a couple by Tilden Park. If you live in the Bay Area, you know that's a cold area, by Oakland Hills and by Berkeley, and the trees are big and heavily productive. So once these trees are big, they can really do a lot. It took them a while to get there because they live in a cold spot. I've watched them grow in the last 10 years, and they've about doubled in size, and they're just loaded with fruit. I mean, anyone who would see these Hass avocado trees would definitely want to buy one. I had originally had a Carmen, but it wasn't doing anything for a couple years, so I finally decided, okay, it's time to make a change. And also got some grafts on this one. You could see the Puebla graft there and another Puebla there, and they both stay green, and they've been like that for weeks, which I'll talk about a little more later. And I also would like to probably graft a Dongalogli, but I'm gonna wait till next year because to me the grafting window is starting to my grafting window. I usually like to graft at the beginning of March because I had a lot of success, which I'll talk about. Let's go over here though. This is the fourth of the NorCal collection, and that's right over here, and that is the Fuerte. Again, I had this in a big barrel, a big pot for a few years, and I watched it grow, and it is one of my favorite avocados, like Mexicola, like bacon, like Hass, of course. I'm not too picky. I just like variety, I think. And this one, what had happened was I had it, but I had two of them, and they were very different. One of them I'm convinced was a Hass, but I studied the leaves and looked closely, and I'm almost positive this is a Fuerte this time. Years ago, I thought I had a Fuerte here. It turned out to be a holiday. And so now I got the real deal. And this one doesn't necessarily produce every year. In fact, in Northern California, it could skip a couple years. But I'm gonna graft a Jan Boyce to it because to me, the Jan Boyce has a similar quality to it. And it tastes different, but the quality is somewhat similar to me. It's almost as if they were related. And the Jan Boyce produces every year. And then the Jan Boyce opened up a spot for another one. And that was a video I made years ago in the back. It was Nabal family avocados, where I had the three Nabal types in the back against that fence I just showed you. And this is the Nabal. And again, I grew this one from like a tiny little 6-inch tree, and it was turning out to be a 3-foot tree. This is the Nabal, and it's taken off. And I cut it back because I decided to make a 3-in-1. Over here you have the reed. Oh look, it looks like it's pushing slowly. Nice green graft, still good. And this is the Julia. And in fact, here's the Julia. I still have the Julia on the other side of the yard. Look at the leaf of the Julia. Big, beautiful leaves. Here's another one. And I've never had that. I've never had a Julia, so I'm really excited to get to see what these are about. And so it's Nabal with its children grafted to it. And don't worry, the Nabal is not going anywhere. You could see the shoots here, and you could see right here in the very tip, there's another one coming out. So I'm gonna train this to be 3 trunks. This will be the Nabal, this will be the reed, this will be the Julia. And instead of it taking 3 spots in the backyard, it's got 1 spot with 3 varieties. And I did that because they're all ready at the same time, and I know they're going to taste similar since they're related, so why not just use 1 spot? Because our yards aren't getting any bigger. In fact, here's another one. This is a 2-in-1, and this is the Bay Giant. This is grown in the East Bay. Big, beautiful 2 or 3 pound fruit. And I cut back the tips, It's recovering from the winter. Where it's located, it's next to the bay in the water, which is why I call it Bay Giant, because it is next to the bay. And their nights are a little warmer than mine because of the water. So here it's a little colder, a couple of degrees at night, but it's coming along. It's going to be fine. You could see, I'm sure next video it'll look great. But I also put on a graft of one of the best avocados I ever had, and it's from West Oakland. I call it Oaklando. And this graft has been here again about 6 weeks now, and it looks like it's getting ready to go too. So this is a 2-in-1 of local varieties. And I got the bananas here because they need a lot of water, so the water here goes into the Bay Giant, and the Bay Giant likes a lot of water when it's hot. And you can see my soil is pretty good. Look, I got lots of worms here. Got a slug, but lots of worms as well. I keep my soil good and healthy, and it's going to be a happy tree. But I can tell you, I'm just sharing some of my notes. It doesn't like cold nights, and it likes lots of water. So something to keep in mind if you ever get a hold of a Bay Giant. And I like the local varieties because the local varieties give us their success stories. We already know it's going to do well. In fact, let me skip over here. This is essentially, I think of it as a local variety because it is from the Northern California area. It's from Monterey. And this is the Palo de Oro, and this one is just taking off. Look at this. I used to have a Pinkerton here, but from what I understand, the flavor is very similar, but this is a heavily productive tree, a much heavier producer than Pinkerton from what I have heard and seen. So if I could have essentially the same quality but more, yes, I'm going to go with it. Because avocados are a lot of work, so I do recommend that you try to pursue the ones that are heavily and regularly productive. For example, I chose a Fuerte, and that's not going to be regularly productive, but I'm okay with that because I have all these other ones that are going to help me out. So this one, look, it's even got a little flower there. It had flowers. I removed them so it could start growing. In fact, thank you, Ganesh. He mentioned that on one of the forums on Facebook, the avocado forums, that if you remove the flowers, it'll just grow, and that's what has happened here. But speaking of ones that don't necessarily produce well or do well, that's one here I wanted to show you, and I want to show you this too because it lets you know that avocados, they're a challenge, and you're going to run into this, and that's fine. You are going to try different varieties and see how it goes. If it works out, that's beautiful. If not, you just move on. It's a little bit like applying for a job. You apply for a job. If you don't get it, that's okay. At least you tried. Well, I've tried 3 times with this variety. This is the Charwil. And out of the 3, this is the best one I've had. And I've had this for about 6 to 8 months. And it was doing well. And then when it got hot, the central leader burned back, and look, it's going all the way down. And I don't know what's going to happen to it. This is a shady spot. I'll probably put it in a shadier spot. Some people were asking me if it's the soil, and I don't think so because look, this is an Edrenal, and it is in the same soil, and they're probably about the same age as a matter of fact, but I haven't felt the need to repot it yet. I should though. But the reason the Charwil was in a big pot was I figured it was going to just grow in this big pot because I'm not sure if this one does well. So 3 in Northern California in the Bay Area, you that are unpredictable, I can tell you, are Charwil, Surprise, and Stewart, the 3 S's. Stewart, I think, doesn't like our cold at night, so if you're inland, you'll probably have more luck. And Surprise is the same, and Charwil. But the interesting thing about that is Modesto Jeff, he has a Surprise. It's 20 to 30 feet tall, and it produces every year. So it could be that maybe these trees just want to get big and tall, and then they'll start producing because the tree's strong and could take more cold. That's one theory. All I'm saying is if you have a surprise or a Charwil or a Stewart, don't lose hope. It could happen, but what I would do probably is graft another variety to it. Again, which I'll talk about a little bit more at the end. Anyway, this is an Edrenal, and I'm only mentioning it because I'm told that it tastes similar to a Charwil, so this might be an option. But I'm thinking more and more the A types would be the way to go, and green gold, according to 831 Avo, also on YouTube, is the one he recommends. Oh, that reminds me, speaking of YouTube, Pinkerton, according to Johnny's World, he said he got 50 fruit on his Pinkerton in a barrel. So this, in fact, is a Pinkerton, and it's in a container. And I would recommend that if you're container growing. I've never heard of such a good container growing tree. Oh, look at this one's. I got a graft on here of a Knowles, which is also a B type. So we're discussing the B types. Knowles, as I understand from Epicenter, which is where I got the budwood from. Thank you, Ellen. Knowles does well in the Bay Area, and it is a B flower. And from what I could tell, it is more of a Guatemalan tasting one. I'm told someone described it as tasting somewhere between Pinkerton and Fuerte. So by Guatemalan, I mean it's going to have some nuttiness to it. Of course, when I say Guatemalan, as someone pointed out in one of my videos, all these are basically hybrids at this point, but except maybe Reed or Nabal. But essentially, when I say Guatemalan, I'm mostly referring to the flavor, not the DNA. But look at, this is the Pinkerton. It's doing well. And the interesting thing about the Pinkerton is that people criticize it. I've seen some negative feedback, I should say, in Southern California that the Pinkerton, it doesn't ripe evenly, or it takes 2 weeks on the counter to soften up to be eaten. Well, guess what? In Northern California, I haven't had that issue. When I grow my Pinkertons, maybe it's due to my colder nights, they ripe perfectly even. They're very elongated. They are very creamy avocados. And when I take them off the tree, they're ready in just a couple of days. Or maybe, just as long as any other. They're ready in like 5 days max. So I'm saying that because in Northern California, our conditions are different. So maybe Charwil, Stewart, and Surprise, they might be a challenge. But the flip side is, so I think some of our trees might actually enjoy it here in some ways, because like I said, the criticism I've seen of Pinkerton, I've never had that issue. And the same goes with Lamb, which gets to my next tree. I have seen some criticism of Lamb, and I've been told that it is stringy. In Southern California, I have never had that issue. My Lamb are just amazing. They're big, they're nutty, they're oily. Sometimes I'll eat them early in May or June, at which point they basically taste like a store-bought Hass. If I let them hang, or they get bigger, they get oily, and I can let them hang all the way until the following year. And it's an amazing avocado tree. And in fact, people often ask the question, if you had one tree, what would it be? For me, I'd have to say a Lamb, because just the hang time alone. I mean, from summer all the way until January or February of next year, you're going to have avocados. I mean, who wouldn't want that? Look at this tree, just all the flowers, and it stays small. This is a compact tree. And again, some things are different in Southern California, but we definitely have a lot to learn from. One of the ones they recommend, and this one goes out to you, Brad Spa. You told me in a video once, you asked me if I was growing Gwen, because that was the one for you. Well, guess what? I am growing a Gwen. Here we are. Look at this tree. Look at the leaves, and it loves it here. And this is one that's supposed to be very heavily productive. And the interesting thing about this one, it is the parents of this one. So this is an interesting combination here. You got the Gwen and one of its parents, the Lamb. And In Southern California, they really love this tree. The growers down there are always raving about Gwen. And I've had the fruit, and at the time I enjoyed them. They are very good. But didn't really think much. I didn't think much in terms about growing one. I just thought in terms of the season. It has the same season as a lot of others. But I am thinking that the reason why they love this one in Southern California, just looking at the tree, is the performance of the tree. Just like my lamb, it's really not just the flavor sometimes. And as you can see, I'm not really the pickiest about flavor. Sometimes it's the performance. I mean, if this tree is so productive that branches break off, I mean, you're going to want that tree, because I can tell you, sometimes I go visit people with avocado trees, and from my work, I'll drive around and I'll see trees that have no fruit. Now, what fun is that? Why do you want an avocado tree with no fruit? I mean, it's okay. You know what happens? Sometimes, like last year, it was a cold spring. Sometimes the conditions aren't going to be right. You know, keep your tree. But what I'm trying to say is, if you can find trees that are reliable and productive, go with those first. And then you could go with the ones like Charwil, like Fuerte, that are not as necessarily reliable, but they'll give you fruit, and you'll get to try something that you can't buy, because I've never seen a Charwil fruit for sale in Northern California, or even Dongalogli. It's like, oh my goodness. Like, you know, even our Gwen, I've never seen it. I don't think I've ever seen a Gwen for sale either. I think Berkeley Bowl might have some. This one here is a green stick, and I'm happy to show you, because this is going to change. This is going to be okay. It's just getting adjusted. It's just getting acclimated. And this is a gem. And I'm growing this because I want to keep it as a 6-foot tree, because I have here a little space in the side. And then I have my persimmon. And then behind there, I got my bananas. You can see my little banana alley. And so I just wanted a small tree. And I really like these fruit. I find that they're big and they're oily and nutty. And also I want to grow them so I could share the budwood with other people. Now, getting back to what I was going to say about grafting. If you've been watching this video this long, then I know that this is something that would interest you. I want to show you over here one of my projects, all locals, and that is this tree. This here is 3 varieties in one. This is the SC Gold on top, which we have discussed before. Over here is a La Morinda, which tastes like a light Fuerte. And this is a De Arturo, which tastes like a light Hass. Now, when I say light, it could be that they were just picked early, because obviously if you let something hang on a tree longer, it's going to develop more and more oil. So maybe that was the situation here, was that when I've had them, the oil wasn't really quite developed. And but I'm sure, I have no doubt with the La Morinda, if you let them hang, and the De Arturo, that they're going to get nuttier and nuttier. And here I want to talk about grafting, because I was saving it for last, because grafting really is what changed everything in my yard. The fact that I can take wonderful local varieties and graft them and grow them has been the biggest game changer. Here's some other grafts here. You can see that one right there. This is a big stick. I'm not sure if it's going to take, but it looks like it is. It's been there for a couple months now. These are some big grafts I'm just sort of playing with. Here's another graft. That's a Helen with 2 L's. And here's some more. And I got some knolls and some reeds back here. And what I wanted to say about that is it really changes everything. If you want to learn to graft, I'm telling you, you're gonna have to probably try 100 times, unless you're just very talented and lucky. But what happened to me is the success would come and go. sometimes I would have a bunch of success and then it would go away. Then other years are better than others. And then timing. And the 3 tips I just wanted to give as I circle around my lamb was that one, season. So for me, the best grafting window where I am in Brentwood, California, I think is March 1st, before or after March 1st, because what happens is the grafts will go on the tree when the budwood is starting to push and the rootstock or seedling is starting to grow, but it's not hot yet. So what'll happen is it'll have about 3 weeks to 4 weeks to heal. Then once your tree, once the graft union heals, then comes April and everything starts to push. The second thing was when I started grafting, what I didn't quite understand was when you put the wood in, for example, say this were a graft, it's obviously not, but when you put the wood in, you want to be sure that you can do this with it, that it's got a little give. That is, when you put in the wedge into the graft, you want to know that it's not going to fall, that on its own it could stand, and then you wrap it. And the last thing is wet wood. I remember early on when I was trying to graft, I was having limited success and no success in the very beginning. And I remember now looking back that, you know what, I remember grafting the wood and it was dry. So I cut the wood and put it together and it was dry, and guess what, those failed. So you always want to be sure the wood is dipped in water. Or in one video I put it in my mouth, and I did that just to show you that that's what you want. You want wet wood. Whether you use water, well, how you do it is up to you, but all I'm saying is you want a wet contact surface between the two. So I hope you enjoyed this little tour with me, and I want to do updates because I want to encourage you to grow avocados, because I love growing avocados. It makes me very happy and gives me a break from this stressful world we're living in, and I want you to enjoy that too, so we could all build a community and be happier together. All right, thanks for watching, guys. You have a wonderful day. Please like and subscribe.